This is Sam Kirkaldie. I live in Billings, Montana. Oh, no, I don't. I was born at Fort Belknap in 1939, October. Lodgepole, our home place is about 5 miles east of Lodgepole. Assiniboine, I'm 1/4. Dave and Beulah Kirkaldie. Frank and Mary Kirkaldie. And my mom's parents were Susie and Benjamin Franklin Brown. You know, I really haven't given that a lot of thought over the years. My childhood was great because I had a lot of freedom, spent a lot of time horseback when I was growing up, and you know, the fact that I was located where I was made all that possible. And then since then, I've read some of the history, and I think they were originally part of the Sioux tribe, and there are some Assiniboines that still live in Canada, and I think I have relatives up there, but I don't know any of them. Harlem, the 1950s, I'm a pretty old guy. I'm 85 years old now. And the 1950s was the best decade that I've ever lived through, and that included my high school days. Well, when I was growing up, I did sports in school. Of course, I played basketball and football and baseball and ran track and did rodeos. I was in high school rodeos. I was a state champion bareback rider the year I was a senior and went to the national finals in Sulphur, Louisiana. Yeah, my grandmother did, and two of my dad's brothers, when they would come to visit, would visit with her in Assiniboine. We didn't know we were poor. Seriously, we raised most of our own food. We had a huge garden every year, and raised potatoes and all kinds of vegetables, and we butchered every year, so we produced our own meat. We hunted a lot. My mom said one summer there were 17 people staying at our place all summer, one summer, and my mom said we ate 13 deer that summer. Going the powwows, yeah, oh yeah, there used to be one between Christmas and New Year's at the hall in Lodgepole, and then there was one in Hayes around that time too, and then there would be a spring one. It seemed like in maybe March there would be another one, and we always went to that. And there would be in the summertime there was a Sundance down at the agency, and I would attend that. And then I'd been to Wolf Point for their celebration a couple of times. Kind of. There was a Presbyterian church about a mile from our place when I was a kid, and there was a preacher there named Philip Oberg. And so while he was there, we attended church there pretty regularly. And then when he went away, we didn't have a local preacher anymore. And occasionally people from Malta or Harlem would come out and provide services on a Sunday, and we would go to that. And my sister and my brother went to Bible camp there a couple of times, but I was too young when that was happening, and I didn't get to go to that. When I graduated high school in '58, That was the summer I went to Louisiana for the national finals, and when I came back, I went to school in Bozeman, went to college in Bozeman, and I was there for 2 years, and I really didn't have a very good direction in my life and what I really wanted to do. I was in engineering, I was studying engineering, and then I basically ran out of money, so I left school and went and got a job. And I have not resided on the reservation since that time. I was 18 years old. Well, on the reservation is pretty laid back because when I lived there, I was still living at home, so it wasn't. I didn't have to go and make a living. I mean, we worked all the time because we had cattle and quite a few horses, and we put up hay for them every year, and we would cut ice out of a reservoir for the summertime. We had an ice house at our place, and we'd have ice in that all summer long. So there was plenty of work to do, and we were always pretty busy. When I moved off the reservation, then it was more competitive, of course, because you go and get a job, and then, you know, the goal, of course, then is to move up to better jobs and you know, buy something, get a house, get some property, all of that. And so it was a much more competitive environment. We live in Billings in a townhome. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath townhome. Oh, no, it's a 2-bath townhome, 2.5 bath. And we've been here for, full-time, we've been here for about 4 years. Prior to that, we've owned this place since 2012, but the early years that we owned it, we only came here in the summertime. In the wintertime, we would go back to our home in Bend, Oregon, where we lived for 44 years prior to that. When we lived there, it was great. We lived in about the middle of the state. We were on the east side of the Cascade Mountains, and so we got a lot of sunshine, and we didn't get much rain at all in that area. And we were in an area where there were a lot of rivers and lakes and stuff, so there was a lot of opportunity for hunting and fishing and camping and all that. And there were a lot of golf courses there, which I liked. And there was a good ski mountain 20 miles out of town, and that was great too. The only problem was when we first moved there, the town of Bend was 16,000 people, and now it's well over 100,000. And it grew too quickly, and it outgrew the infrastructure, and so it's difficult to drive around that town now because everything's so jammed up. You're in gridlock pretty much the whole time. I can't think of anything you guys are not already doing that would be helpful. I know you have a Facebook page and that for communications. And I really can't think of anything. You know, we're pretty self-sufficient, and so I don't know. maybe have a celebration or a weekend for it be like a school reunion, only for everybody that ever went there. You know what I'm saying? So all the old timers could show up and see people from their own age groups on up to today. That would be kind of good. I have considered it in the past, but I don't want to live there full time, and I don't want to go back there and build a house and leave it for part of the year, so I've never done it. I still have property there at our old home place, and I keep that property because we have a family cemetery there, and I want to maintain access to that, so I keep that property there. Well, there were a couple of people. My parents, first of all, they prepared me to live off the reservation with well, for example, when I was a kid, they bought a set of encyclopedias, and I was using those encyclopedias all the time when I was, 10, 12 years old. And so they prepared me for that. And then when I was in high school, there was a lady teacher there. I was pretty shy because I came off the ranch and went to a bigger school when I went to Harlem, and there was a lady teacher there. She was Mrs. Hunter, and she was in class one day, and she said, she said, if you think you can do something, you can. If you think you can't do something, you can't. She said, and not in an egotistical way, but she said, you're only as good as you think you are. And, and I found that to be true. If you think you can't do something, I guarantee you can't do it, and so you have to have enough confidence to say, I can do this, and then you can, it's life is kind of simple in that way, because if you don't have that, if you don't believe that, then it's really difficult to go out and do something new. And if it's not, then you see the people around you and you realize, hey, they're doing this, and if they can do it, I can do it. And so that she was a big influence on me. And then when I was 11 years old, I had a heart condition, and I needed surgery. So I went to the regional hospital in Tacoma. It was called, I think it was called Cushman then. Anyway, there was a doctor there that befriended me, and he took me to circuses, and he took me fishing, and we went camping at Mount Rainier one weekend, and he took me to movies, and we did all kinds of things before I had my surgery. And then when I had my surgery, my parents came out on the train to get me and take me back home. And then from that point on, I maintained contact with this doctor for the rest of his life. He died about 6 or 7 years ago. But anyway, he was a huge influence on my life too. Oh, that's one of our main challenges right now, because we have quite a few family members up at Fort Belknap, and we do get up there occasionally. But 2 of our sons live in Seattle, and one of them lives in Atlanta, Georgia. And so, they have children, so we have grandchildren in all 3 locations, and we never seem to be able to get enough time to spend with them. We travel to their place a couple of times a year, and sometimes some summers they come here and spend 2 or 3 weeks in the summertime at our place here in Billings. But we don't get enough time with them. We may in the next few months, we may get a place out near Seattle, so that we can be closer to them out there. And then we'd only have one that would be a long distance trip, and it's just as quick and wouldn't cost any more to make that trip from Seattle than it does from Billings. So we'll probably be doing something like that within this next summer. I've given this a lot of thought throughout my life, and I really believe that the reservation system should have been disbanded, way back in maybe the 1930s or 40s, when people from the reservation could go out and make a decent living working on farms and ranches and things like that. and now it's more difficult because it's more difficult to complete without an education. And unless they do move off the res, I know they have the college up there, and that's a good step in the right direction. But I still think that that system should be done away with in some manner. I don't know exactly how it could be done that wouldn't be a hardship on at least one generation. But I think it needs to be done at some point because, you know, it sort of traps the people there. I know they're reluctant to leave because they're clannish. I mean, I'm saying this from my own experience. You know, you're when you move off, you go through a time period when all you want to do is move back and spend time there. And you know that if you do, you probably never leave again, that kind of a thing. And so it's a difficult thing, the way it's set up now. More and more I see are moving off the res and starting to make a living outside those confines, but it still draws them back, and, you know, and the people there are always urging you to come back and live at home, you know, and it's tempting, but you really can't. You're really limited on what you can do there because there's only a few jobs. I know Island Mountain provides a number of jobs on the reservation, but there's not many opportunities to do anything else, and so you sort of trap yourself into a one kind of a lifestyle. And I would, if I had it to do all over again, I wouldn't change anything. I'd leave right away.